This is one of my favorite hawks. This is a hawk. And I want especially you Audubon group, think about what kind of hawk is this? Yeah, her right there, Swainson's hawk. Yep, this is a Swainson's hawk. This is a highly migratory bird. A bird that spends its spring and summer in western North America in the grasslands, in the open grasslands. You don't see too many of them on the west side, like over in Portland, but then you see them, once you start hitting the Dalles or so, then you start seeing a lot of Swainson's hawks. Around here, they're probably our most common hawk in the spring and summer. And they migrate down to South America. They're a bird that will migrate all the way down to Argentina and Paraguay and Uruguay. But especially Argentina is where these birds will go. In 1995 or 1996, we started hearing reports of Swainson's hawks down on the Pampas of Argentina. Areas where they're doing some farming, and we were hearing reports of thousands of dead hawks. The hawks were just all laying in fields. Now for a hawk, what do hawks normally eat? You have an idea? Hawks eat mice, they eat rodents, they eat squirrels when they can catch them. These guys are peculiar. Swainson's hawks will eat those guys, but these guys like grasshoppers. They love to eat bugs. In South America, they have some pretty big grasshoppers too. So they go down there and they're feeding on grasshoppers. The farmers don't love grasshoppers. Because what do grasshoppers eat? They eat plants. Yeah, so if you have a big farm field full of grasshoppers, the farmer's not very happy. So there was some pesticides that were used in the mid-90s that were just killing hawks. I mean, they were killing bugs too. They were killing the grasshoppers. But in 2 years, it's estimated that 5% of the global population of Swainson's hawks was wiped out in just 2 years. And I think that was about 20,000 hawks that ended up dying. And there's a researcher at Boise State that went down there with a team to try to figure out exactly what the problem was. And we figured out what the problem was. And we got rid of those organochlorine pesticides because they're bad news. Yeah, he doesn't like them either. And the Swainson's hawks fortunately bounced back, and they're still doing quite well. This bird's parents nested just less than a mile from here. And nested, I think it was 7 years ago now. And they nested in a tree, and we think that they were maybe first-time breeders because they put their nest right kind of in the top, right in the sunshine. And around here it gets pretty hot. And this year in May, not this year, but the year that this bird was born, we had a stretch of 100-degree temperatures in May. And this bird and its siblings just kept jumping out of the nest. It was just too hot. And this nest happened to be on the property of our founder, whose name is Tom Cade. So Tom Cade goes out there and sees these baby Swainson's hawks on the ground, and that's not a very safe place to be raised. So he picked them up and put them back in the nest. Well, they jumped out again. And from what I understand, they jumped out again. And a couple of this bird's siblings got carried off. So at that point, it's a failed nest. A lot of raptor nests fail. In fact, 70% of raptors won't make it through their first year. It's about that number. It's really high. The first year is tough on raptors. So these birds weren't going to make it. He picked up that bird and brought it up here and said, well, why don't we use the Swainson's hawk in our education program? And so that's how this bird got here. We trained this bird to fly outside. So Trish in that video was talking about our amazing flight shows in the fall. That's going to happen in October. This bird is in training right now. We can take it outside and we can fly it around and come back to the glove. And anyway, it's a really neat experience to see
where they're going. And the president and former creator our former raptor specialists are taking him to a function benefit. So at least he's being calm, but he's was raised from a chick, and he's about 12 years old.
Okay.
So what they do is they're perpetual teenagers, like, fix me a sandwich, fix me a sandwich. Whether they're hungry now, actually wants the curator and wants a green bird. That's a European kestrel. And what?
The one that was down at 4 birds?
No, the European kestrels are actually pretty common. The one you're thinking of is a Mauritius kestrel. She's still in courting mode, and that's courting. And then what she does is when you won't court with her, she gets really angry and she wants to attack you.
Oh.
They're very pretty birds, and we do show her occasionally, but Connie would actually like to sell her to a breeder or somebody that could utilize it. And the one thing, and I maybe...
She's good to go, apparently.
Yeah, and she is, she's ready.
I'm ready. Bring it.
She pointed out that none of these birds are releasable because they're either, in the United States, if you have a bird that is born in captivity, it can't be released. And that's what state and federal regulations do not allow it to be released.
Okay.
So most of these birds have been, about 2/3 of them are born in captivity, but some have come out of the wild. This bird was rescued before it could fly. This is a western screech owl. It's a male. He was unfortunately kept by somebody who didn't know how to rehabilitate him, and that kept him. She was born here along with our breeding project. She went to Texas and was released, and she got attacked by a Swinson hawk, and it broke her leg. And she'd only been out of the hack box, that's where we release the birds. She'd only been out about 3 or 4 days, and it completely broke her femur. And she survived for about 5 days. Then one of the guys, a guy named Paul Jurgens, who was one of our release supervisors, found her, took her to her vet, and they were able to reset it, and she's completely healed. But the problem was that she was in rehabilitation too long to be then re-released. She didn't know how to hunt. So he kept her, and he was able to move her off of our reproduction, reintroduction permit to his falconry permit. He's a falconer also. So he flew her for a couple of years. He said she never was very good. But he fly her to the lure, and then he finally, he called our director and said, hey, you wouldn't want a female back. And we were like, yeah, sure, because we can use her in flight demonstration, because he'd fly her to the lure.
What type of falcon is she?
Palmetto falcon, like
Palmetto
the
falcon.
one,
Those
and like the
ginger
one
ones
you saw in chamber.